Alright guys, it's time I bring up another indie game that's looking like it's going to be another hidden gem among us. It's a game that really brings that nostalgia feeling back to fans of the PlayStation 1 era of survival horror games, complete with fixed camera angles, tank controls, and even limited inventory space. A game that's paying homage to the classic Resident Evil games, and I'm of course talking about Echoes of the Living. But before we take a deep dive into this new nightmare, I want to take a moment and welcome anyone new to the channel. If you are new, please consider subscribing. I got a ton of stuff in the works that I would love to share with you all. Also, if you do happen to enjoy the video, let me know by dropping a like. But anyways guys, we got a lot to get into, so without further ado, let's get into it. Echoes of the Living is being developed by MoonGlint, which is actually not a full-blown studio. It's actually just a two-person development team. And honestly, my hats go off to them, because after playing this demo, I'm actually highly impressed. The game takes place in the year 1996 in a small town in northern Europe, when suddenly a mysterious fog rises up, completely covering the town. Not long after that, do the dead start to rise and roam the streets, causing panic among the living. Okay, so I know this backstory is very vague and pretty generic, but given that this game is a complete throwback, I actually love the backstory so far. The game takes place during 1996, which is an obvious reference to Resident Evil 1 because that's the year it came out. And honestly, as you can see throughout the gameplay footage in this video, you'll be able to tell that this game really is paying homage to the original classic Resident Evil titles, and that you could obviously see that they had a major influence on this game. Plus, with the backstory being a fog covers the town, it leaves so many doors open. Is it a supernatural thing that's causing the dead to rise up? Is it a man-made chemical gas that's causing the fog to cover the town? We don't know. And as you play through the game, you'll be able to piece it together. And when the final game's released, we'll be able to see the whole story, which I'm very interested in to see what is actually causing this phenomenon to happen. But I want to get into my overall impressions of the game so far and give my initial thoughts on the demo. So, as I said before, the game does have tank controls, much like you would find in any survival horror game from the PlayStation 1 era. And truthfully, I don't really mind this. I will admit it does take some getting used to, especially for me to go back and use this control scheme, as I'm more used to the modern day controls. However, after a while, they're really not that bad. Once you get used to the controls, I will say the game does feel overall pretty responsive. There are some tiny minor hiccups I do want to talk about, like for starters, you could only reload your gun while you're aiming down the sights. If you go on empty, your character will not automatically reload the weapon, nor can you reload your gun while you're in that aiming stance. You have to lower your weapon and then reload it. I'm unsure if this was a design choice or if this will be altered in future versions of the game. Like I said, this is a demo from a very small development team. However, my recommendation would be to be able to load your weapon in 3 different ways. The first way would be reloading the weapon while your weapon is drawn. When you're aiming down the sights, you should be able to reload it. The second is reloading the weapon while your character does not have the weapon drawn, much like the game works now. And the third way would be by combining ammo in the inventory system with the gun. I think if we have all 3 ways, it's just going to feel much better. Like I said, I do have some small hiccups with the game, but I feel like these tiny things would improve my overall experience while playing this title. Or maybe it's just my personal preference. After all, this is just my opinion. But I want to move on from the guns and I want to talk about the knife in this game. And truth be told, I feel like it feels very lackluster. I'm not suggesting that the knife be overpowered and broken. However, the range on the knife is just so small. In Resident Evil, your character would do a little bit of a lunge and then slash, giving you that slight range, and you'll be able to do a couple quick slashes and then kite the zombie and kill him that way. In Echoes of the Living, your character does slash, but they just kind of wave their arm in front of them. They don't do any lunging movement at all. So you have no range with the knife. And I feel like just giving that tiny bit of extra range would be very beneficial from a gameplay perspective. Now in the demo, you don't really have to use the knife. So I get that this point might be kind of stupid because you do find enough ammo that you actually pretty much never have to rely on the knife. However, I feel like for these type of games, getting that knife movement down is important because knife only runs have been super popular in this genre. And I would like to see it popular in Echoes of the Living as well. I'm not saying that a knife only run would be impossible for this game. After all, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of pros out there that are able to do it and make it look extremely easy. That being said, I think just adding a little bit more of a reach overall would be such a better experience from a player perspective. Maybe I just need to get good and I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not really sure. Let me know what you guys think of the knife down in the comments below. But I want to move past combat and talk about some of my other small critiques of the game. And the first one is how keys work in this game. For example, if you collect a key and go to the locked door that key opens, you do not automatically use the key. You have to open up your inventory, select the key, and hit use. Then you will unlock the door, which is not a super big deal, but if you end up collecting multiple keys and you don't know which key opens which door, this could become very tedious very fast. Plus, this is not a puzzle, it's just a key for a door. In Resident Evil, you didn't have to select what key to use on what door. Once you had that key in your inventory, your character would automatically open the door using the key. Having to open the menu does get tiring, and it's just like you're opening to select the right key. It's just another step that should be taken out of the game. That being said, I want to make it clear, this criticism is only in reference to keys and locked doors, not key items and puzzles. So if you happen to find a crowbar or a crank or some sort of statue or whatever, and you need to use it for a puzzle, I think you should have to go into your inventory, select which item to use, and use it on the puzzle, because that's more of an actual puzzle. But simply opening up a locked door, they could cut that part out, at least in my opinion. Speaking of puzzles, before I move on to my next critique, I just want to briefly say that I think they're actually done very well and fair in this game. It's nothing too extreme that you'll have to pull your hair out trying to figure it out. I'm going to say they're pretty much on par with other classic games in this genre, and that's how I think they should be. I do have one other critique of the game before I wrap up my overall thoughts, and that is the map in the game. It's very bare bones. You open up the map and you see like squares where you could kind of piece together what's a hallway, what's a room, and whatnot. But unlike Resident Evil, you don't have an arrow to know which direction you're pointing, and unlike Silent Hill, your character doesn't make any notes on the map. So every time you open it up, it's just blocks. It's very bare bones. And I know for some people it will not matter, but I'm the type of person where I easily get lost in games. So if you're like that as well, if the game starts to open up more and more and more, eventually I want to be able to rely on the map a little bit better. And right now I feel like it's just not super helpful unless you play the whole game only in small sections where you're not backtracking to other sections continuously. So that's something I would actually like to see really improved upon. With those out of the way, I just want to say that even though I was critiquing it, I was still highly impressed by the demo, and I can't wait to see what's happening next. As for the developers, it definitely feels like they do have a vision for this game, and that is they want to make a traditional survival horror game. And honestly, so far, I think they're definitely on the right path. One tweet the developers did put out that I really did enjoy was this: "Our childhood dreams and love for classic survival horror is our fuel. However, this type of game has a small audience, but as long as we could cover cost and develop more games, we are happy." And I love that because it shows that they know that this is for a small niche audience, and they're trying to make a game to make those fans happy. And if the demo is anything to go by, I definitely think fans will be happy with the final product. product. Overall, I was actually happy with the time I spent with the demo. I was highly impressed, and I do look forward to see any future demos or just the final product when it's finally released in the future. And one more thing I do want to point out. Even if you're not into demos and you'd rather wait for the final product, the demo still might be worth checking out because there's Easter eggs in the demo that may not appear in the final release of the game. So if you're the type of person that enjoys hunting for different Easter eggs from different horror games, you might want to check out this demo on Steam. But I want to hear what you guys think. Have you played the demo? What are your thoughts of the demo? Or what are your thoughts of the overall gameplay footage from this video? Do you guys enjoy these throwback titles that indie games do provide that the AAA scene does not give us? Are there any other survival horror games coming out that you think I should be on the lookout for? Let me know in the comments down below. As for me, I got a ton of work to do, so I'm gonna get back to the grind, and I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.